I just don't know whether it's working. I don't want to waste time. I just don't know whether it's working. It's working. We're working. Thank you. We're working. I appreciate your patience. So there's a common concept that I see from having a nutritional and behavior and the psychology of behavior change in fitness. So it's kind of like this diet mindset that can become very, very what we would call dichotomous thinking. Dichotomous thinking would be it's either we're either all in or we're all out. It's one or the other. And I can tell you just right now, if you're in that kind of mindset, please stay tuned to this video. But first off, it's not healthy. It's not. You think it is, but it's not. Because the reason why it's not is like it's either we're all in or we're all out. It's kind of really, really rigid. Makes sense. And it can carry over to everything that we do inside of life. And like it's like that we get this high amount of motivation. We really, really achieve a high level of motivation. Then all of a sudden we dip and we go through these dips and then we go high motivation dips. And a lot of the similar personalities that would be doing this all the time, they would be common kind of people that would be carrying over to every single thing that they be doing. They would be probably you would they would be probably be people that would be program hopping every single year. They would be nutrition type hopping every single year. They would be on different diet plans every single month, every 2 weeks. They'd be off the diet plan. They'd be joining different diet crews all the time. And what I mean by different diet crews is like different cults, different organizations, instead of just like looking into the real understanding of like what probably consistency means to you and what having good health means to you. And what I mean by that is I'm going to just break that down really, really simple right now. So I would look into say other areas outside of fitness in the scientific literature. And just to give a little bit of a note for an example, if you look into say Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan's work, they've wrote like I think about 6 books, 5 or 6 books. One of them is called Personality is Not Permanent, and the other one is Become Your Future Self Now, The Who Not How, and is one of his most famous books called 10x is Easier Than 2x. And I've read them books and I do study his work because I'm very, very fascinated with his work because number one, he's a scientist, he's a PhD. He's coming from a family of a background in addiction, and basically you can see that he does a lot of study himself, and a lot of the stuff that he speaks about relates and resonates with nutrition and life in general. That's just my personal bias towards that, but it's quite relatable. And what I mean is like if you look into the way they speak about like become your future self today, which is not easy. It's not that you can just show up, rock up, and be your future self today. But the point that he makes, and what I even make as well, is like, let's say, for example, we live about 80% in the subconscious and unconscious in the past and present. So we live in our past nearly most days. We unconsciously probably don't even notice that. So, do you ever notice, say, for example, you have a lot of people, if you even read Stephen Gaine's book called The Hungry Brain, where we have this like our environment dictates through, can dictate what we eat. And a lot of us are more prone to eat either salt or sugary based foods. Now, this doesn't mean that sugar is an enemy because that gets a bad blame. But the thing about sugar and salt is they're hyper palatable. They're easy to overeat. These foods are easy to overconsume. And what happens is if we haven't got good intuitive eating skills, we haven't got good self awareness around when we're eating, that we cannot like actually understand and like be in tune with our own like hunger cues, be in tune with like are we satisfied around the meal? Are we satisfied with what we're eating? And then like all of a sudden we can go into like overeating compulsively when we do eat one of these croissants or we do eat a certain donut or we go out on Halloween with our with your kids or stuff like that, and you probably can't control through low impulse control, being able to possibly eat probably a donut, be satisfied, and put it down, which is quite difficult. But then the sugar or salt gets the blame, and then all of a sudden we go back into the black or white thinking. We're all in, cut that out. Sugar caused this on me. But the point of that, if we step back and look into this with the future self. So let's say, for example, you look into that, then behaviors are always going to be there. And that's why when you form new habits and you start to do different stuff day to day that's in alignment with your future self, what will happen is you'll start to develop skills. And we go from like unconscious incompetence to conscious competence, which is a good place to be for somebody where we develop the skills of the past and present and bring them, and the more we start to develop new habits that's in alignment with our future self, we want them in conscious competence to become skills on automatic. Does this make sense? So they're on automatic. So the health behaviors, going to the gym, going to bed in the evening, getting off your phone, um, preparing meals, whatever you have to do that your future self is in alignment with. And what I mean by that is, let's speak of the future self right now. So I'll just give you a little bit of a coaching session, right? Let's say you're looking at your physical destiny. So your physical destiny would be like, what do you want your physical body to look like in the next 12 months, right? What do you want it to look like? Just think of that. Like, do you want to have an aesthetic physique? Do you want to look good in a bikini? Do you want to look good in on the beach? Do you want to just look good in your clothes? Do you want to have an athletic look? Like, what do you want your actual physical destiny to look like? What do you want to look like physically? And then you're probably thinking that right now, like what you want to look like, and you're probably getting really motivated by that right now. But it's easy to get motivated by that. But we got to understand, like, what is the actual strategy that needs to be done for you to be able to get to that destination? Because that's what's going to matter too. Because, like, how can we set ourselves up for consistency? How can we manage our time that we have available? How can we actually start setting with reality towards that future self physical destiny? Because when you look at that physical destiny, right, we human beings can be very, very selfish creatures. We can be massively selfish. We're very, very self-centered at times, and we think of only ourselves. For an example, so there's where you want to be with your physical destiny, all right? Say to yourself, like, you might have kids, you might have co-workers, you might have a significant other, you might have responsibilities coming up, you might have holidays coming up, yes? And you might be somebody who enjoys food for pleasure. You might be somebody that enjoys food for your culture. Your culture could be in alignment with you eating certain foods. So the question I have for you right now, I want you to leave fear behind us. That's FEAR. No fear, no nothing, right? None of that's allowed right now. So what kind of foods would you like to be eating as your future self with that physical destiny if you were allowed to incorporate them inside? So think of that right now. Like, do you really want to make a commitment to giving up cake at a birthday? Do you really want to be giving up probably eating out 2 times a week socially with your friends or with your family? Be honest. Just take a moment to be honest with yourself. Like, just be truly honest with your future self. Have a little bit of empathy for your future self. Have a little bit of compassion for your future self. Just think of it right now. Like, do you really want to make them commitments? Not what you're scared of. Do you really want to make them? Do you, like, let's say, for example, you might go out and, like, I don't know, I used to live in Vancouver. People love to eat Asian food. They like to go out and eat sushi a lot. They like to go out and do these kind of things. Same with Toronto. Spain, it's totally different. People like to eat out a lot over here. So you have to really ask yourself, do you really want to make that commitment? And I know, like, we're just thinking, I know you're thinking short term, but you probably have a load of weight on you right now. You probably want to get rid of it. You probably, and I totally understand that. But if you stick with me on this video, I'm going to explain that. So you got to kind of look into that, right? Now, then you got to understand your future self, okay? Your future self that you're looking to become, yes? Would you say that future self that has a great physical body, that eats well, is able to go out and drink alcohol 7 days a week, party 7 days a week, and be able to probably say, eat what they want? Your future self. And the answer to that is, if you're genetically designed where you have an unbelievable body, you don't have to do man. Possibly you could get away with that. I'm just going to use me for a moment. I gain weight very, very fast. I haven't got great genetics, none of that. My name used to be Fat Ray for most of my life. I was overweight. So I have to work really, really hard to get in shape or even to maintain staying in shape. I have to really like be diligent. I have to prepare meals. I have to prepare stuff. I have to go exercise. I have to do cardiovascular work. I have to sleep well, and I have to a lot of the times make good, confident decisions around nutrition and foods. But I do allow flexibility inside of my life too, and live a life a little bit too. But there's a gap between that, and that's what I'm saying to you. So you got to understand, like, for example, like what you want to do for your life as your future self. So let's say your future self, right? This is what I notice with most clients I coach. I'm not picking out one of yours or even speaking about anybody that are a coach right now or anything whatsoever. I'm just saying after 15 years, right? That a lot of people, if this is you, and I'm just speak to them, they like to probably, like, Monday to Friday, they can do really, really well with nutrition, with like a good quality breakfast, probably a good quality lunch that they eat. Possibly they might eat out with a coworker once a week. They might eat out with a friend or their family. And usually in the evenings, things go really, really good. They eat well. They do quite good with all that. And then on a Saturday or Sunday, a lot of the time they might have kids they're not in schools, they're all out routine in the house. They might get really busy. They might be setting themselves up for Christmas. They might be setting themselves up for Halloween. You just don't know what a mother and father could be doing on a weekend, or someone that's really, really busy. You just don't know what's happening if someone's traveling, and all of a sudden they have it. They could be on these macro plans or meal plans or rigid ways of eating, that if you even look at the questions that I have there, like they start to ask themselves, like, I just put these up, like, am I allowed to eat this? Will I use this as a cheat day? Will I use this as a way of just being able to overeat? Everything is going to be okay. And they start to play devil's advocate with themselves. But what happens is, when they're in alignment with their future self, and if you were right now and you said to yourself, right, on my weekends, I don't want to have to go to the gym. I don't want to have to be on any diet plans on the weekends. I want to be able to set this up where Monday to Friday I can do quite good, and then on the weekends what I can do is I just want to allow a little bit of food freedom. Now I got food freedom off a friend. He was another coach, him and his girlfriend, to be quite honest, and it made a lot of sense. Food freedom, because I do believe in free meals and a free way of eating. So what food freedom is and what food freedom is not is what I'm going to break down here right now, because we're getting in alignment with the future self, all right? So, food freedom would be, based on my opinion, is scientific literature. If you wanted to go down that route as well, could show a lot of this too. But you don't always have to cite studies for everything, do you? So, let's say, for example, food freedom might be a person goes out on the weekend and they might get up, if they have a good coach will possibly educate that person on what's important to eat. So, for example, a set of non-negotiables could be protein on the weekend, Probably vegetables like probably even 2 cups, even if you hadn't got them on the weekend. Who even cares? Probably during the week you get the benefits out of them. Probably eating like 1 to 2 servings of fruit, possibly like hydrating really, really well, probably having 1 to 2 cups of coffee if you drink them. But let's say, for example, food freedom would be like if you went out on a Saturday night or even a Sunday, knowing how to actually probably sit down with your family at a table or your friends and knowing how to order a meal that you like, where you're probably not too much thinking of calories, you're not over obsessing if it's gluten free, if it's this or that. You're just able to probably sit there and eat that meal and enjoy the moment with the people that you're with. Be able to eat that until you're slow, till you're satisfied, and not feel that you are not allowed to do that and that you're back in school or you're back being controlled again. Because what happens is this is what gets someone in a diet mindset, and they start to become really, really rigid, and therefore they might feel a little bit guilty and a little bit of shame deep down inside of them if they do eat that meal and as if they're after doing something wrong. Where food freedom would be you possibly being able to have that meal, and if a dessert came around, you could eat the dessert if you wanted to eat it. Like if you really wanted to eat that, because the most detrimental is if you didn't do that, you start to self sabotage yourself. You start to feel like that this plan you didn't want to do, where all of a sudden that Saturday, the next day, you start to self sabotage and you just say, fuck this meal plan. Sorry for the language. Because this is what happens. The hell with this. I'm not doing this. I'm going to start living my life. I'm going all in here. And then all of a sudden that becomes a binge. Every single thing that you're working towards Monday to Fridays and Saturdays and weekends all goes out the window. This is where the black and white thinking comes in. You throw her all out, you give her all up, your exercise goes down, everything goes down. And what you do is you just throw in the towel. You just say, game over. Whereas if you did probably eat that meal, because your future self is going to have a social life anyhow, isn't it? That your future self is going to eat with your family and friends. Your future self is going to probably, when they travel, eat out. But it's about knowing how to make the right conscious decisions. It's knowing how to make the right decisions, which is self efficacy at the table wherever you go, and being able to eat like wherever you go inside of the world. Your future self probably doesn't want to cook. Your future self probably doesn't want to have to wash dishes all the time. Your future self may want to be able to go out and eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you got to know how to be educated around what you're eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinners, even if you're eating out, to stay in alignment with your goals. So let's say you did do well on the Saturday night, and then on the Sunday, all of a sudden you get back up. But if you got back up the next day and you had a dessert the night before and went and jumped on a treadmill and started to think that you're going to burn calories, I think that's self harm. And the reason why I think it's self harm, because you're punishing yourself for eating that dessert. If you punish yourself for eating dessert or punish yourself for anything, that is seriously self harm. That's being honest. It's really punishing yourself. That's not good. Instead of just waking up and accepting and enjoying and knowing that you ate that dessert and that you enjoyed what you done, that is a bit of food freedom. You get up the next day, you possibly just get on about your life. You prepare a breakfast. You might have a different breakfast with your family. You might even go out for brunch with your friends. You might even go do these kind of stuff. Because remember, you're working towards your future self. You're working towards that. So why not become your future self right now? Am I making sense? Because if your future self is somebody that basically, if your future self is somebody that would have to change what you're currently doing right now if you're not achieving the results that you want. So you got to probably start doing the future self actions today. Does this make sense? Instead of what I see is that people keep waiting on this perfect moment all the time. They keep saying, oh, I'm too busy now, or this is happening right now, I'm going to wait till January. You know what, Ray? Let's put that program off until 3 months' time. I just know someone that even says that. It's nothing to do with I'm in control or anything. I just know that they're just going to still keep doing that, because the people that really will make a change are the people that are ready right now. The people that will understand that all we have in life is the present moment. All we have in life is today and tomorrow, and the actions that we can put into tomorrow. There's no perfect time. There really isn't. And you probably know that, because, like, let's go back to that person that gets up on a Sunday. You probably have the brunch, and possibly you probably do well and you eat well that day, and because you're probably feeling confident and you had that little bit of food freedom, that you then just get back on with Sundays. Monday you start to stack big wins again. Your performance in the gym starts to increase. Your cardiovascular work starts to increase. But most of all, you don't feel rigid. You don't feel that you need to change anything. You're enjoying what you're doing. The following weekend or even stuff like that, a lot of people probably don't even go out, but they probably just know that they have that little bit of freedom to be able to do that. And that's why, and what I'm trying to say is that to become your future self right now. So if your future self is somebody that is looking to whatever you want to have inside of your life, I would highly suggest to make your fitness goals in alignment with them. Make your fitness a lifestyle. Same with nutrition. Because if you, let's say, for example, you look at somebody over a year, and you're constantly looking the same every single year, or if not even bigger or worse, obviously there's something going wrong. Obviously there is. Like, so why not sit down and say to yourself, like, right, what do I want my future self to look like? Like, do I want to have this diet and mindset all the time? This mindset where I'm constantly on a diet, worrying about what I'm going to eat all the time, worrying about what's in certain stuff all the time, or understanding how to actually eat a meal, like how to actually eat healthy in a way that's also emotionally healthy, that's also hasn't got you with body dissatisfaction, body dysmorphia, constantly looking in mirrors all the time, constantly worried about how you look, constantly just attacking yourself all the time and never leaving yourself alone. I do it a lot. I do it a lot, but it's got better. But over time, you can start to do this. Like, you don't realize the amount of pressure that you can put on yourself all over this stuff, all over worrying about. And, like, do you honestly even think people care about what you look like? I don't. People are gonna judge us anyhow. Judgment is something that's inside the human beings' minds all the time. So the key takeaways of what I'd look in today is, if you continue to do what you're doing every single day, you will get the same results over and over and over again. First 10 to 14 days of any nutrition plan, you're just losing carbohydrates off your body, you're just losing water, you're just losing bone mineral density, you're probably losing a bit of fat, you're losing a bit of gut flora. Like, 5 to 7 pounds can hang around on your gut. So the thing is that even if you do go out and have these big, huge cheat meals all the time, I'd really start to question them cheat meals. Like, why are you having that? Like, what is the real purpose behind having that? Because this can be very, very negative consequences if you're thinking cheat meals. Like, I've been looking at people, and I hear people, they give up carbohydrates, but when they eat carbohydrates, they eat like 24 donuts. They eat jars of honey, and I'm like, is it the carbohydrates or is it you? And people can't look at that. Like if I was eating jars of honey, and anyone was eating like 24 donuts once a week, like, I'd be really questioning the 24 donuts over what I'm doing 7 days a week. Makes sense? Instead of, like, probably having a donut and enjoying a donut regularly, I think the problem would be, like, why am I eating the 24 donuts rather than knowing how to possibly go up, eat like 1 to 2 donuts. If you're going out to a party and someone has a bit of cake or stuff like that, being able to eat that cake without possibly thinking that, like, you've done something wrong, or devouring and saying, "Oh, I'm not having that cake. I'm not allowed." I'm not allowed, or I'm on a ketogenic diet at the moment. I'm not allowed that I'll come out ketosis. That's if you're on a ketogenic diet for other reasons, that's fine. But I'm just saying that you can still produce ketones with carbohydrates, being shown massively in the research. You can still produce ketones in a caloric deficit, whether you had a donut or not. So there's loads of like stuff that you need to really look into this. Am I telling you to go out today and start eating loads of donuts or eating these kind of going out and having a big binge because I said so? No, I'm not. But what I am saying to you is, what I am suggesting is to really look into your future self of what you want for you, what you want your lifestyle to look like in fitness, and just learn how to actually incorporate the nutrition into that lifestyle in a flexible way. This is why flexible dieting was developed in, I think it was developed in 2009, was it? Probably a little bit before that. And the purpose of it was that if you eat a certain amount of macronutrients every day, you eat a certain amount of protein, you eat a certain amount of probably dietary fiber every single day, or you eat like you get your vitamins, minerals, calcium, iron, and certain foods that like you could incorporate a little bit of what we say favorite foods. Like I started out with Pop Tarts years ago. People used to incorporate Pop Tarts. Do I think Pop Tarts are healthier than sweet potato that contains potassium, vitamin A, dietary fiber, a lot of starch? So does probably Pop Tarts. No, I wouldn't. I definitely don't think so whatsoever. But the purpose is that like you don't have to quit these foods and go all in or all out. That you can allow them with a little bit of freedom. Makes sense. And it doesn't even mean that like you have to even eat them at all. You're probably a personal preference that you just value healthy, tasty types of foods, and that's fine too. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that like if you constantly are going out and then like you think that you can't eat with your family or with your friends or that you have to fall off track all the time that you do that and it's affecting you, then I'd highly look into knowing how to educate yourself and to be able to eat them foods in a way that's in alignment with your goals and not have to keep falling off track, on track, all in, not in, getting ready, falling off. What's this challenge? Looking for challenges. This, my friends, is all the Cotton is thinking. It's very, very rigid, and it's what we call psychological self limiting beliefs, how we're actually programmed around nutrition, exercise, and even stress management recovery. Any questions you have, please let me know. This video went on for a bit. I hope it helped. I hope you got value from it.